Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giribharadhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giribharadhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giribharadhari Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giribharadhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giribharadhari Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giribharadhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giribharadhari Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijan Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopijan Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Bona Chahari. Yamuna Tira Bona Chahari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Govinda Shri Radhe. Jaya Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava Shri Radhe. Jaya Nitya Sachinandana Gaura Hare, Jaya Nitya Sachinandana Gaura Hare. Jaya Panchatattva Jaya, Panchatattva Jaya, Panchatattva Jaya, Panchatattva. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Haribo. Jai Om Vishnubad Paramahamsa Parivrajika Acharya Stotara Sata Shishimana Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Zagaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivinda Ki Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Chamakund Radha Kund Giri Govardhana Ki Vrindavan Dham Ki, Mayapur Dham Ki, Jagannath Puri Dham Ki, Jamuna Maya Ki, Ganga Maya Ki, Tulsi Devi Ki, Bhakti Devi Ki, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki, Harinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki, Prihat Madanga Transcendental Book Distribution Ki, ISKCON Ireland Ki, Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shishi Guru and Gauranga. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Style Leshmani Satsvatas Goswami Shmani Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamani Namaste Saraswati. So, on this wonderful auspicious occasion of Nishinga Chaturdasi, we are continuing on with our reading from the Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 6, text number 32. And I will just read the verse and purports and then continue. I will be referring to the Nishingadeva's appearance day today during this class. But we want to continue with our reading in Canto 1, Chapter 6, text number 32. Devadatam imam binam sara brahma vibhushitam murchayitva harikatam gayamanas charam yam. Deva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Sri Krishna. Datam, gifted by. Imam, this. Vinam, a musical stringed instrument. Svara, singing meter. Brahma, transcendental. Vibhushitam, decorated with murchayitva, vibrating. Decorated with, yes, vibhushitam, decorated with. Murchayitva, vibrating. Harikatam, transcendental message. Gayamana, singing constantly. Charami, to move. Aham, I. So now read the verse, the translation and purport. And thus I travel constantly, singing the transcendental message of the glories of the Lord, vibrating this instrument called a veena, which is charged with transcendental sound and which was given to me by Lord Krishna. So the musical instrument called the veena, which was handed to Narada by Lord Sri Krishna, is described in the Linga Purana, and this is confirmed by Srila Jiva Goswami. This transcendental instrument is identical with Lord Sri Krishna and Narada, because all of them are of the same transcendental category. Sound vibrated by the instrument cannot be material, and therefore the glories and pastimes which are broadcast by the instrument of Narada are also transcendental, without a tinge of material inebriety. The 7 singing meters, namely Sa, Sajja, Ra, Rishabha, Ga, Gandhara, Ma, Madhyama, Pa, Panchama, Da, Daivata, and Ni, Nishada, are also transcendental and specifically meant for transcendental songs. As a pure devotee of the Lord, Sri Narada Dev is always fulfilling his obligation to the Lord for his gift of the instrument, and thus he is always engaged in singing his transcendental glories and is therefore infallible in his exalted position. Following in the footsteps of Sri Narada Muni, a self-realized soul in the material world should also properly use the sound meters, namely Sa, Ra, Ga, Ma, etc., in the service of the Lord by constantly singing the glories of the Lord as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. I was born in the darkness of the night. Spiritual master opened my eyes with a torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful Hare Krishna. So, welcome to the Wednesday's class. As you can see in the purport, there's descriptions of Narada's Veena and the transcendental sound. So because of the day that's in it, I thought I would, we're in the first canto at the moment, I thought I'd shoot on quickly to the 7th canto, which explains about another of Sri Narada's influences in the Bhagavatam, which is, of course, the great devotee Prahlad Maharaj. And he glorifies Narada in that whole pastime with Lord Nrsingadev. And it's a very powerful section of the Bhagavatam. I'm actually making an endeavor to read some of the most, if you could say it, the most important purports, but no, I'd say some of the ones that struck me the most, and Prabhupada has quoted a lot. I thought I would take those purports and basically, or those verses, and then also explain what Srila Prabhupada says in the purport, and then gradually leading all the way to the demise of Hiranyakashipu, which we all want to hear about over and over again. There's a little bit of an echo there. What I'd like to do as well is just at the end. Yeah, at the end I'd like to kind of just read the actual slaying of the demon Hiranyakashipu, because it's incredibly dramatic, as we know, and it is particularly significant on today. But obviously it's a matter of timing, so I want to finish by 20 past, maximum 25. I'd say I'll finish by 25 and then see if there's any comments or questions. So there's a good bit to get through, but I'm not going to just kind of rush through everything and then nobody gets anything out of it. So if I stay at some parts, I might just quickly glide by other parts. But because it's such a special day, I thought it was nice to take some of these verses and purports which are significant. So this is chapters Canto 7, Chapter 2, and it's just at the point where Hiranyakashipu is lamenting the loss of his brother Hiranyaksha, who's just been killed by Lord Vraha, and he wants to get his own back on Krishna, but he's there with his relatives at the funeral, and extraordinarily he starts to speak about philosophy, which is quite amazing, and pretty amazing philosophy as well, because it is the Vedas, but it's just interesting to see it's Hiranyakashipu who's saying it. We would have said it, some great devotee, if we had just read the section on its own. But he's doing it with a purpose in mind. It's not just because he wants enlightenment or glorifying Krishna. He's doing it because he's trying to extract a meaning to console or to comfort his relatives who are there for the funeral, and he's actually also trying to rally them into action. And this is a point where he actually says that he's going to take his own back on Lord Vishnu, and he's rallying the demons to go and to do some absolutely horribly horrendous things to the devotees. And we see that this is the position of the demons in the earth today. They're always trying to disrupt things and to make things really awkward. But principally, they're trying to destroy the Brahminical principles and the Varnashram principles, actually. And so this is the first verse that I'm taking today. I won't take the... Yeah, okay, I will. Tavayada bhuvam yuyam brahma kshatra sameditam sudayadvam tapo yagya shraddhaya vratatanina. This is Canto 7, Text 2. And he's addressing, Hiranyakashipu is addressing his friends. While I am engaged in the business of killing Lord Vishnu, go down to the planet Earth, which is flourishing due to Brahminical culture and a Kshatriya government. These people engage in austerity, sacrifice, Vedic study, regulative vows, and charity. Destroy all the people thus engaged. So you can see what he's trying to do there, disrupting the Brahmanas. And the purport Prabhupada, he explains that for peace and prosperity in society and harmony, it can be done if it's maintained by the Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas. So that's quite interesting, isn't it? Because we know that this material world is dukkhalayam shashvatam. It's temporary and it's full of misery. But yet, Prabhupada often talks about uh, where there is much more harmonious living, and it's a very conducive to spiritual life. And he explains here that two important ingredients. First important ingredient is the head, is the Brahman. And then in the purport here, he explains how the Brahmanas are, their main contribution is because they can keep peace, they're truthful, they have self-control, they are tolerant, they observe cleanliness and simplicity. So with all the world, with all its tossings and toings and froings and the tumult of the material world, the modes of nature competing, sometimes the mode of goodness is prominent, and sometimes the mode of passion is prominent, defeating goodness and ignorance, and then ignorance is prominent, defeating the other two. So the living entities in this world, they're completely fraught in these different modes of nature. And in this instance, the Brahmanas are very important to try to keep a very clear, steady ship, because we are prone to be disrupted and go in all different directions. But the Brahmanas keep a cool head on things, and they give direction, but also they give direction to the Kshatriyas. So that's another thing that they do. They advise the kings. They don't get involved in the actual rulership themselves. So many examples of that in King Vena. They eventually got involved, and they removed the king, and then they had to get they turned to the body and of King Vena, and Prithu was born, and he was of course the great ideal king as well. So the Brahmanas generally leave it to the Kshatriyas, but they give advice. So the Kshatriyas, what they do is they engage the public in austerity, because that's what this world is about. It's not meant for enjoyment, it's meant for austerity. Austerity is the wealth of the Brahmanas. So austerity is very important for society. They perform sacrifices. At that time there was all different types of sacrifices, but today it is the Sankirtan Yoga. So you'll notice a lot of our Brahminical devotees, they are always constantly explaining how we should chant the holy names of the Lord and how we should chant them attentively. That is the Brahminical function, and we all listen to those types that advice, so that again, another major theme in the Krishna consciousness movement, it is to educate the devotees so that they can behave properly, and thereby usher in a new society, and they become great examples for people in general. And also the Vedic study, and it's another important aspect where the Vedas are. We are always being encouraged to read the books, read Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is the answer to all questions. So Bhagavatam and hearing, these are things which you should do constantly. In fact, we should not actually even face the day without having spent our time listening to Srila Prabhupada explaining the purports from the Bhagavatam, and by chanting Hare Krishna, because otherwise it's a waste of a day. Actually, I don't know if anyone ever gets that experience. I get it anytime. I don't chant in the morning, or I don't read, I don't have the Brahminical strength there. It just becomes things become useless. I'm struggling with my senses all the time, more so than usual. So just by hearing and chanting the first thing in the morning for day after day after day, year after year, we have some grip of being able to keep focused on what the goal of life is. So they perform sacrifices and Vedic study and adherence to the rules. That is the benefit of the Kshatriya, is that constantly he emphasizes what should and shouldn't be done, because the mind is always kind of drifting off. Maybe I could do this, maybe I could do that. What about this and what about this? Sure, there's no harm in doing this. There's no harm. So the Kshatriya is there just to keep the nose to the grindstone. Is that it? In other words, it actually keeps, really repetition is the mother of learning. Every time it keeps on bringing us back to what the goal is, because as we know, this is the world of mass distraction, There's so much distraction goes on in the world today. So we're trying to keep focused on what our main function is to go home back to Godhead, and to serve Krishna while we're here. So another function of the Kshatriyas is to arrange for charity for the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas and the temples. That's what Srila Prabhupada says in this purport. So arrange for charity. So we're going to have an appeal at the end of the class for funds. No, I'm only joking. But that is true, though. I mean, we have to have an example of the ideal society going on. So therefore we have the temples, and we try to maintain temples. And in the temples, the devotees are maintaining the principles as Srila Prabhupada instructed. So we have the getting up early in the morning, 4:30, 4 o'clock, or whatever, and to go to the program, chant Hare Krishna, hear Bhagavatam, do seva for the day, do daily worship, so much that has to be done. Those examples have to be there. So that it's an example for all the other, and then even time again, hear the Bhagavatam, hear Bhagavad Gita. So it's an example for the householders who themselves are to make their own homes into temples, and to offer prasad, offer food, offer arti. So many things that we do to maintain the homes as temples. But the ideal example is there in the temple, and that should be the focus for the devotees, that the temple is maintained like that. Prabhupada then goes on to say that this is the godly arrangement for Brahminical culture. So it's very interesting. Bhagavad Gita here, Yagyartat karmanonyata lokoyam kamabandada tadartam karmakantaya mukta sangha samacharat, that work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed, otherwise work causes bondage in this material world. So the ideal Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra society is meant so that this world becomes tolerable, actually becomes suitable, conducive towards practicing spiritual life. And it's none so than explained here that this can be done. There is an actual proper way in which society should be run. So the verses 3:9 to 3:12 in Karma Yoga, Prabhupada, I'll just read the translations. But Prabhupada goes and explains that this is actually the ideal situation. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, work causes bondage in this material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction, and in that way you will always remain free from bondage. In the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures sent forth generations of men and demigods, along with sacrifices for Vishnu, and blessed them by saying, "Be thou happy by this yajna, because its performance will bestow upon you everything desirable for living happily and achieving liberation." The demigods, being pleased by sacrifices, will also please you, and thus by cooperation between men and demigods, prosperity will reign for all. In charge of the various necessities of life, the demigods will be satisfied by the performance of yajna, will supply all necessities unto you. But he who enjoys such gifts without offering them to the demigods in return is certainly a thief. So this is the way the material world goes on, because everything is supplied by the demigods, but ultimately by Krishna. Food, heat, light, water, air. These are all so important things. I mean, we can really appreciate them. Well, I can appreciate them more in this particular scenario because I'm going out for walks, I'm just chanting and the sun is coming. It's incredible. I mean, it is really amazing, to see all that we're given, the air. We come back, we have some nice prasadam. What more do you want, almost, I know it's been funded by the government a little, for me anyway at the moment, but I think we're all of us thinking that, wow, these things are the most important things. So how can we live differently? So so this is just the ideal way in which we're to live, and we become fit and healthy for the main purpose of life, and you feel much fitter, you feel much healthier in this kind of environment. Whereas if we use all these things for our sense gratification, then we're thieves and we will get reactions from nature. So we know what the reactions from nature are like, as we can see at the moment. The air is polluted to the maximum degree. The water is poisoned. You know, just a drink from the tap sometimes. You really taste, of course, even from the tap, you might say that's the water we get anyway. Try to swim in the ocean. Yes, not necessarily always advisable. Even see it in India, the river Yamuna is completely polluted. The light, I mean, look how we've destroyed the ozone layer, you know, because we're trying to use things for our sense gratification. We destroy the ozone layer, you know. So the light that's coming in is not healing, you know. It is, it can be damaging. So food, I mean, don't get me going on that one, you know. The food is, the seeds have been patented. Can you imagine? The food that's everybody's, you know, their right. It's given by Krishna. Krishna gives this. It's been patented by a company whereby you can't get your own seeds anymore. We sell you the seeds. Why? Because we sell you the pesticides as well to poison all the things that our seeds have done, you know, so that your seeds can grow properly. Because if you don't use our seeds and there are pesticides, so they're destroying everything just for so-called ridiculous sense gratification. So we know that the sacrifice has to be performed, work done as a sacrifice. So we see how the demoniac influence has totally overtaken, and that's what's represented by Hiranyakashipu. The simple things in life, food, heat, light, water, air, they've been plundered just by foolish people trying to use things for sense gratification. And we can see that the basis of that even is in some of the religions. This world is meant for us, for man has dominion over everything. You know, do you ever hear that?
The animals.
You know, it has dominion over the animals. So what will we do? We'll grow them for food, you know, even though there's billions of ecosystems going on, incredibly arranged by Krishna. We destroy everything. We create methane gas. We butcher the animals in heartless, horrendous ways. Why? They don't have a soul anyway. You know, this is the kind of activity that goes on, and what we're trying to change all that, folks. We're trying to bring a more natural way of life. So if there is a little tendency towards that at the moment, let's jump on that. You know, let's use it. You know, as much as we can. Let's preach in that. Let's walk in that direction, and let's walk our talk. Because there's a whole bunch of activists out there. I mean, most of us who joined in the 70s and 80s were activists, you know. We wanted to do something to change the whole world. So then we suddenly kind of got a little bit kind of watered down, you might say. Anyway, I'm speaking for myself. I just saw some pictures of what some of the other yatras around the world, and they're certainly activists, you know. But in the West, it seems to have got much more, you know, was it a colour TV in a place by the sea, Jai Jagadisha Hare. But the other sense is that we've been dragged into the system as well. You know, Prabhupada wanted very revolutionary changes, but we've got dragged into the system quite. I'm speaking for myself anyway, and it's very difficult to set up anything that's different. But anyway, there is an opportunity at the moment if we can take hold of it, and we should have been taking hold of it all the time. But anyway, better late than never. As they say, a tree. What's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. What's the second best time to plant a tree? Now. So let's try to do that. Okay, I'll just go on with the story because I'm taking up too much time here. There's Hiranyakashipu then, you know, starts to quote to his relatives about this famous king called Suyogya, who was a great warrior, but then he died. And he was left on the battlefield, and all his wives came out and saw him, and he was there. He was still the same body there. His teeth were clenched from his determination during the battle, and all the queens were lamenting, and they didn't know what to do. And then eventually, Hiranyakashipu quoted that Yamaraj came and he started as a young boy, and he told them about the goal of life, and this body is temporary, and you shouldn't lament for the dying person. Look at the body, look at him there. He's, it's the same person. Why are you still sort of so immersed in that person? And then he also told them the story of the Kalinga bird, who. With his female went out and one day, and then she was caught in the net of the hunter, and he became so morose, and he thought, what will happen to my poor little Kalinga birds? And of course, while he was lamenting there, the hunter was just waiting, and then shot an arrow and killed him. So this is about this material world is what it's like. It's very short, so don't spend the time lamenting. But Hiranyakashipu was trying to rouse his company for action, and so then that's the next stage I'd like to get to. Another very famous verse, or there's a couple of verses here. It's in 7:4:19. Sorry, I haven't really marked all of these. Basically what happens now is that Hiranyakashipu then goes off, right? He goes off to perform his austerities. He's after telling all his mates to go and do all this heinous activity, and then he goes off himself to perform austerities to become as powerful as he possibly can. Eventually, when he's down to the stage of is basically he's just a skeleton, and the ants have all eaten his body, but he's creating a huge disturbance in the universe. Then eventually Lord Brahma comes and with his amazing drops of incredible water, he just puts 3 drops on the Hiranyakashipu, and boom, he has this amazing body, not to be surpassed by anybody. And he asks Lord Brahma for the boons. So now he's given the boons to overtake the planet. Lord Brahma allows it to happen. You can also understand that this is Jai and Vijay as well. This is Lord Krishna's pastimes. So this is the material world. So Krishna has allowed this demon to become the head of everything. So therefore he eventually takes hold of the universe and becomes as powerful and overrules everybody. Everybody is under, even Narada. Narada starts to having to worship him. All the demigods have to worship him. So they become so disturbed that they go to Krishna and they ask him, "What are we to do in this circumstance? This guy is completely overrunning everything. We're completely overwrought, and there's no sacrifice going on. Everything is disturbed." And there's an amazing verse that I came across in the middle of this, and I just read and it's I think it's Krishna speaking about Hiranyakashipu. In spite of achieving the power to control in all directions, and in spite of enjoying all types of dear sense gratification as much as possible, Hiranyakashipu was dissatisfied because instead of controlling his senses, he remained their servant. So we don't need any further, indication about that. This is the goal. We can understand the goal of life just from that particular point. Don't try. We can understand what not to do. Don't try to satisfy your senses. You cannot be happy. Next verse. Hiranyakashipu thus passed a long time. Sorry. No, that was just one verse. So it's just Prabhupada in the purport talks about the asuric life like that you can never be happy. But then Krishna then assures the devotees, and this is the assurance for us as well, to follow Krishna in this life. He assures us that he has got things under control, despite so many seeming disturbances that are there. And these are disturbances, folks. Let's not be mistaken about it. These are huge disturbances which Hiranyakashipu was performing. There's disturbances in our lives at the moment, but there are even greater disturbances going on. And we are so fortunate in the sense we have the holy name, we have the scripture, and Krishna says, "The voice of the Lord vibrated as follows. O best of learned persons, do not fear. I wish all good fortune to you. Become my devotees by hearing and chanting about me and offering me prayers. For these are certainly meant to award benedictions to all living entities. I know all about the activities of Hiranyakashipu and shall surely stop them very soon. Please wait patiently until that time." So then Prabhupada in the purport starts to explain about the qualities of Prahlad. And of course, Prahlad is the archetype, is the person that we should follow. We should try to hear about all of the time about the qualities. There's a whole canto is about explains about Prahlad and about Prahlad's understanding, his activities. Here's some of the qualities that are explained. The qualities of Prahlad Maharaj, the son of Hiranyakashipu, are described herewith. He was completely cultured as a qualified Brahmana, having very good character and being determined to understand the absolute truth. He had full control of his senses and mind. Like the Supersoul, he was kind to every living entity and was the best friend of everyone. To respectable persons, he exacted exactly like a menial servant. To the poor, he was like a father. To his equals, he was attached like a sympathetic brother. And he considered his teachers, spiritual masters, and older godbrothers to be as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He was completely free from an unnatural pride that might have arisen from his good education, riches, beauty, aristocracy, and so on. I really like that last one, that, he was completely free from unnatural pride, because, even if we perform some little devotional service, immediately, yes, just see what I've done. Despite the fact I'm coming from the lowest background imaginable, still, there's you do a little something and then suddenly the pride comes. But this is Prahlad with all these incredible qualities that, he's not proud. So then we come to the first meeting of Prahlad and Hiranyakashipu. Prahlad has been in the school, and Hiranyakashipu, great, here's my son. Please tell me what is the best things that you've learned. And this is a beautiful verse by Prahlad. So you can imagine Hiranyakashipu, his next of kin, is sitting, sitting on his knee, and he asks him, so how are we going to rule? And Prahlad says, Tat sadhu manye suravarya dehinam sada samudvigna diyam masadgrahat hivatma patam guhamanda kupam vanam gato yadarim ashrayata. So Prahlad says, O best of the Asuras, king of the demons, as far as I have learned from my spiritual master, any person who has accepted a temporary body and temporary household life is certainly embarrassed by anxiety because of having fallen in a dark well where there is no water but only suffering. One should give up this position and go to the forest. More clearly, one should go to Vrindavan, where only Krishna consciousness is prevalent, and one should take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This was not what he wanted to hear. But I just thought in one section it was amazing the way Prabhupada translated about going to the forest. He says, more clearly, one should go to Vrindavan, not just to the forest, but to Vrindavan. So that's why we have all these wonderful temples. Like you should go to Govindadweep, like as Vrindavan or New Rajdam or, New Vrindavan. Prabhupada had created all these Vrindavan. He created the temples in everybody's home. There's Vrindavan as well. But this is Prabhupada saying that this is where we should go. This is where we should dedicate our life. We should fix our minds on the activities, and we should serve the deity. We should serve Radha and Krishna. We should make a beautiful place of pastimes for Radha and Krishna. We should clean their paths. We should mow their grass. We should make a beautiful place for people to come and worship Krishna. These are all the activities that we should perform. And in that way we will be, even if we're brahmachari, even if we're a householder, this will be our goal. We won't be frequenting the dark well, even when we're married. For the men and the ladies, it's also, if we put Krishna in the center, then that's the same. Anyway, Krishna is not making any differentiation. But we should always try to please Krishna and serve Krishna. And as I said, as Prabhupada wanted, we should set up these beautiful places of pastimes for Krishna. When Prabhupada went to New York, first of all, he wanted to make this temple. So I think, I can't remember which street it was, but he saw this building and immediately he wanted a temple. Because he was having these short talks to people, and the people weren't staying. They would only come for a talk and then they'd be gone again. So, but he wanted a place for himself, and so it's quite amazing because he tried everything, and this Indian backer said, "Okay, well, maybe we'll temple, but it has to be beautiful Vedic temple." And Prabhupada said, "Okay, we'll put a dome on top," and. But they didn't want that. They wanted a thing, very elaborate, whatever. Prabhupada just wanted to get something going. And so Prabhupada spoke about he wanted his godbrothers then to help, to get some place to speak about Krishna consciousness. But eventually it didn't happen. He didn't get it. And then he had to we went to the Bowery. And so the Bowery is, of course, the worst dump in the world, because it's traditionally understood to be. Still, he wanted to get a temple there. He wanted to use this Bowery loft as a temple. But he had to share a loft with a person who became deranged. Prabhupada was very hopeful of this person originally, but eventually the person had a completely psychotic breakdown. So then Prabhupada ran down the stairs and just like when he came to New York first, he didn't know whether to turn right or turn left. So then he also ran down the stairs. He didn't know where to turn right or left. Eventually he had someone's phone number, Carl Jurgens, and so he went to Carl Jurgens' place. And now Carl had another loft, but when he was married to a lady called, I can't remember her name, not Carol, Eva, I think it was. And but she was into women's liberation. She didn't want Carl was a black man, so she wanted she wanted to pick whatever partner she wanted. She was very much powerful like this, and didn't want the. But she did service. She allowed Prabhupada to stay in her place, even though it was begrudgingly. So again, we just want to see some of Prabhupada's incredible. If you can't get everything you want at the beginning, just try something. Do this. Do something. So he got this. He went from the Bowery to this other house, and then eventually he got 26 Second Avenue, and then the rest is history. And he set up the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So, in this verse, this is what Prahlad is advising: we should go to Vrindavan. So the second encounter. There's Hiranyakashipu is furious, tells the guys, "Did you tell him this?" "No, we didn't." "Okay, go off and tell him, explain to him how to do it, how to behave properly." So he came back the second time, sat on his lap, and then, "So what's the best thing you've learned?" And then Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Dasyam, Archanam, Atmanivedam, Sakyam, Atmanivedam. So then Prabhupada gives a 15-page purport about this second encounter, so I won't go into that, you know. And then he asks him, well, if it wasn't your teachers who told you this, you know, he absolutely flips the lid again. If it wasn't your teachers who said this, then how did you learn it? And then Prabhupada says, Prahlad says, Matirna Krishna Parataksa Tota Mito Bita Jeta Graha Vritana Madanta Gobir Vishitam Tamishram Punak Punas Pacharvita Charvita Nam. Famous verse. Because of their uncontrolled senses, persons too addicted to materialistic life make progress toward hellish conditions and repeatedly chew that which has already been chewed. Their inclinations toward Krishna are never aroused, either by the instructions of others, by their own efforts, or by a combination of both. So, if you're a Grihavrata, if you only want to live comfortably in the material world, you cannot understand Krishna. So that's not where our goal is here. You can live comfortably, in a sense, if we perform sacrifice. But if our goal is just to is trying to have enjoyment, then it's not going to happen. There's Bhogeshvara Prashaktanam Bhataya Parita Chetastam. So, and in the next verse, a brilliant verse again, only by Navititu Svartakatimhi Vishnu, persons who are entrapped in the consciousness of material life, they just basically they accept another blind man who leads them into the ditch. Another brilliant verse. That's 9, 7, 5, 31, 30, 31, and 32. I just read the Sanskrit anyway. That Nateva du Svartakatim hi Vishnum Durashaya yahi Bhartamanina Anda Yatandir Upayyanamanas Te Pisha Tantiam Urudamni Bodha. And then the next verse is that unless they smear upon their bodies the dust of the lotus feet of a Vaishnava, completely freed from material contamination, persons very much inclined toward materialistic life cannot be attached to the lotus feet of the Lord, who is glorified for his uncommon activities. Only by becoming Krishna conscious and taking shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord, in this way can one be freed from material contamination. And now at this point, when Hiranyakashipu hears this, he tries to kill Krishna, or he tries to kill Prahlad. We know all the ways. Throws him under the elephant, drops him from a height, from a mountain, gives him poison, everything, and he can't do it. And he becomes completely frustrated. So he's just completely morose. And then his two teachers come along and says, "Don't worry, he's only a little boy. You know, we'll get over it. We'll teach him this. We'll teach him. Don't worry. You know, eventually we'll make him into a great devotee of materialism." And they didn't, of course. So then Prahlad is left alone then with the other friends, and then he starts to instruct them. He gives them amazing instructions. Prahlad instructs his demoniac schoolmates. And again, this is another point that Prabhupada says. This is a verse that Prabhupada used at the very preface of Krishna consciousness. Komaraya charat pragyo dharmam bhagavatamiha durlabam manusham janma tadapap yuruvam artadam. Prahlad said, one who is sufficiently intelligent should use the human form of body from the very beginning of life, in other words, from the tender age of childhood, to practice the activities of devotional service, giving up all other engagements. The human body is most rarely achieved, and although temporary like other bodies, it is meaningful because in the human life one can perform devotional service. Even a slight amount of sincere devotional service can give one complete perfection. And then in preface, Srila Prabhupada, it shows you how important this verse, because he quotes it in the preface of the whole Bhagavatam. And he says that disparity in human society is due to lack of principles in a godless civilization. There is God, or the Almighty One, from whom everything emanates, by whom everything is maintained, and in whom everything is merged to rest. Material science has tried to find the ultimate source of creation very insufficiently, but it is a fact that there is one ultimate source of everything that be. This ultimate source is explained rationally and authoritatively in the beautiful Bhagavatam, or Srimad Bhagavatam. So Prabhupada is giving us so many instructions from the very beginning. Bring people to Krishna consciousness, train them, teach them, become teachers, educate people in Krishna consciousness from the start. So these are the instructions that are there. So Prahlad basically is left alone with all the schoolmates, and he gives them, and in one of the sections in 726, he starts to glorify Narada, his spiritual master, and it is a beautiful. I mean, there's no way I'm going to get through all of this stuff, because it's all of it is incredible. It's very hard to leave anything out. But anyway, just because it's 8:30 now, there's the third meeting of Prahlad in Hiranyakashipu. Prahlad also explains to his young boys how Narada came and instructed him in the womb. Again, very beautiful what he learned in the womb, and there's some amazing verses about happiness and distress, and how by devotional service we can become Krishna conscious. These are all jewels in this whole section, and this is I'm only taking the first half, but eventually what happens is that then Sanda and Amarka, who told Hiranyakashipu that don't worry, we'll look after everything, we'll make sure that this all happens properly. He becomes totally devoted to materialism. But then they go and they see that all the whole class of demons have become devotees, and they become absolutely, completely shattered. And Hiranyakashipu is inconsolable. I don't know what word you want to use, but he's completely fraught. And is there any comments or questions?
No questions.
Okay. If you want to stay on, I'm going to read this section. It's okay. You could say the class is over now if you want to stop, but I'm just going to read the section where Hiranyakashipu gets pulverized, because it's a special day, isn't it? When Hiranyakashipu understood the entire situation, he was extremely angry. So much so that his body trembled. Thus he finally decided to kill his son Prahlad. Hiranyakashipu was by nature very cruel, and feeling insulted, he began hissing like a snake trampled upon by someone's foot. His son Prahlad was peaceful, mild, and gentle. His senses were under control, and he stood before Hiranyakashipu with folded hands. According to Prahlad's age and behavior, he was not to be chastised. Yet, with staring, crooked eyes, Hiranyakashipu rebuked him with the following harsh words. Hiranyakashipu said, "O most impudent, most unintelligent disruptor of the family, O lowest of mankind, you have violated my power to rule you, and therefore you are an obstinate fool. Today I shall send you to the place of Yamaraj. My son Prahlad, you rascal, you know that when I am angry, all the planets of the 3 worlds tremble, along with their chief rulers. By whose power has a rascal like you become so impudent that you appear fearless and overstep my power to rule you?" Prahlad Maharaj said, "My dear king, the source of my strength of which you are asking is also the source of yours. Indeed, the original source of all kinds of strength is one. He is not only your strength or mine, but the strength for everyone. Without him, no one can get any strength. Whether moving or not moving, superior or inferior, everyone, including Lord Brahma, is controlled by the strength of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the supreme controller and time factor, is the power of the senses, the power of the mind, the power of the body, and the vital force of the senses. His influence is unlimited. He is the best of all living entities, the controller of the 3 modes of material nature. By his own power, he creates this cosmic manifestation, maintains it, and annihilates it also." Prahlad Maharaj continued, "My dear father, please give up your demoniac mentality. Do not discriminate in your heart between enemies and friends. Make your mind equipoised towards everyone. Except for the uncontrolled and misguided mind, there is no enemy within this world. When one sees everyone on the platform of equality, one then becomes to the position of worshipping the Lord perfectly. In former times, there were many fools like you." He's calling his dad a fool. who did not conquer his 6 enemies that steal away the wealth of the body. These fools were proud, thinking, I have conquered all enemies in all the 10 directions. But if a person is victorious over his 6 enemies and is equipoised towards all living entities, for him there are no enemies. Enemies are merely imagined by one in ignorance. Hiranyakashipu replied, You rascal, you are trying to minimize my value, as if you were better than me at controlling the senses. This is over-intelligent. I can therefore understand that you desire to die at my hands, for this kind of nonsensical talk is indulged in by those about to die. O most unfortunate Prahlad, you have always described a supreme being other than me, a supreme being who is above everything, who is the controller of everyone, and who is all-pervading. But where is he? If he is everywhere, then why is he not present before me in this pillar? Because you are speaking so much nonsense, I shall now sever your head from your body. Now let me see your most worshipful God come to protect you. I want to see it. Being obsessed with anger, Hiranyakashipu, who was very great in bodily strength, thus chastised his exalted devotee son Prahlad with harsh words. Cursing him again and again, Hiranyakashipu took up his sword, got up from his royal throne, and with great anger struck his fist against the column. Then, from within the pillar came a fearful sound, which appeared to crack the covering of the universe. O my dear Yudhishthir, this sound reached even the abodes of the demigods, like Lord Brahma. And when the demigods heard it, they thought, Oh, now our planets are being destroyed. While showing his extraordinary prowess, Hiranyakashipu, who desired to kill his own son, heard that wonderful tumultuous sound which had never before been heard. Upon hearing the sound, the other leaders and the demons were afraid. None of them could find the origin of that sound in the assembly. To prove that the statement of his servant Prahlad Maharaj was substantial, in other words, to prove that the Supreme Lord is present everywhere, even within the pillar of an assembly hall, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari exhibited a wonderful form never before seen. The form was neither that of a man nor that of a lion. Thus the Lord appeared in his wonderful form in the assembly hall. While Hiranyakashipu looked all around to find the source of the sound, that wonderful form of the Lord, which could not be ascertained to be either a man or a lion, emerged from the pillar. In amazement, Hiranyakashipu wondered, what is this creature that is half man and half lion? Hiranyakashipu studied the form of the Lord, trying to decide who the form of Nrsingadev standing before him was. The Lord's form was extremely fearsome because of his angry eyes, which resembled molten gold, his shining mane, which expanded the dimensions of his fearful face, his deadly teeth, and his razor-sharp tongue, which moved about like a dueling sword. His ears were erect and motionless, and his nostrils and gaping mouth appeared like caves of a mountain. His jaws parted fearfully, and his entire body touched the sky. His neck was very short and thick, his chest broad, his waist thin, and the hairs on his body as white as the rays of the moon. His arms, which resembled flanks of soldiers, spread in all directions as he killed the demons, rogues, and atheists with his conch shell, disc, club, lotus, and other natural weapons. Hiranyakashipu murmured to himself, Lord Vishnu, who possesses great mystic power, has made this plan to kill me. But what is the use of such an attempt? Who can fight with me? Thinking like this, and taking his club, Hiranyakashipu attacked the Lord like an elephant. Just as a small insect falls forcefully into a fire and the insignificant creature becomes invisible, when Hiranyakashipu attacked the Lord, who was full of effulgence, Hiranyakashipu became invisible. That is not at all astonishing, for the Lord is always situated in pure goodness. Formerly during creation, he entered the dark universe and illuminated it by his spiritual presence. Thereafter, the great demon Hiranyakashipu, who was extremely angry, swiftly attacked Nrsingadev with his club and began to beat him. Lord Nrsingadev, however, captured the great demon along with his club, just as Garuda might capture a great snake. O Yudhishthira, O great son of Bharat, when Lord Nrsingadev gave Hiranyakashipu a chance to slip from his hand, just as Garuda sometimes plays with a snake and let it slip from its mouth, the demigods who had lost their abodes and who were hiding behind the clouds for fear of the demon did not consider that incident very good. Indeed, they were very perturbed. When Hiranyakashipu was freed from the hands of Nrsingadev, he falsely thought that the Lord was afraid of his prowess. Therefore, after taking a little rest from the fight, he took up a sword and shield and again attacked the Lord with great force. Making a loud, shrill sound of laughter, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayan, who is extremely strong and powerful, captured Hiranyakashipu, who was protecting himself with a sword and shield, leaving no gaps open. With the speed of a hawk, Hiranyakashipu moved sometimes in the sky and sometimes in the earth, his eyes closed because of fear of Nrsingadev's laughter. As a snake captures a mouse, or Garuda captures a very venomous snake, Lord Nrsingadev captured Hiranyakashipu, who could not be pierced even by the thunderbolt of Indra. As Hiranyakashipu moved his limbs here and there and all around, very much afflicted by being captured, Lord Nrsingadev placed the demon on his lap, supporting him with his thighs, and in the doorway of the assembly hall, very easily tore the demon to pieces with the nails of his hand. Lord Nrsingadev's mouth and mane were sprinkled with drops of blood, and his fierce eyes, full of anger, were impossible to look at. Licking the edge of his mouth with his tongue, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Nrsingadev, decorated with a garland of intestines taken from Hiranyakashipu's abdomen, resembled a lion that had just killed an elephant. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who had many, many arms, first uprooted Hiranyakashipu's heart and then threw him aside and turned towards the demon's soldiers. These soldiers had come in thousands to fight with him with raised weapons and were very faithful followers of Hiranyakashipu, but Lord Nrsingadev killed all of them merely with the ends of his nails. The hair on Nrsingadev's head shook the clouds and scattered them here and there. His glaring eyes stole the effulgence of the luminaries in the sky. His breathing agitated the seas and oceans. Because of his roaring, all the elephants in the world began to cry in fear. Airplanes were thrown into outer space and the upper planetary system by the hair on Nrsingadev's head. Because of the pressure on the Lord's lotus feet, the earth appeared to slip from its position, and all the hills and mountains sprang up due to his intolerable force. Because of the Lord's bodily effulgence, both the sky and all directions diminished in his natural illumination. Manifesting a full effulgence and a fearsome countenance, Lord Nrsingadev, being very angry and finding no contestant to face his power and opulence, then sat down in the assembly hall on the excellent throne of the king. Because of fear and obedience, no one could come forward to serve the Lord directly. Hiranyakashipu had been exactly like a fever of meningitis in the head of the three worlds. Thus, when the wives of the demigods in the heavenly planets saw the great demon had been killed by the personal hands of Srila, Supreme Personality of Godhead, their faces bloomed in great joy. The wives of the demigods again and again showered flowers from heaven upon Lord Nrsingadev like rain. At that time, the airplanes of the demigods, who desired to see the activities of the Lord Narayan, crowded the sky. The demigods began beating drums and kettle drums, and upon hearing the angelic women began to dance, while the chiefs of the Gandharvas sang sweetly. My dear King Yudhishthira, the demigods then approached the Lord. They were headed by Lord Brahma, King Indra, and Lord Shiva, and included great saintly persons and the residents of Pitraloka, Siddhaloka, Vidyaloka, and the planet of the snakes. The Manus approached, and so did the chiefs of the various other planets. The angelic dancers approached, as did the Gandharvas, Charanas, the Yakshas, the inhabitants of Kinnaraloka, the Vetalas, the inhabitants of Kimpurushaloka, and the personal servants of Vishnu like Sunanda and Kumuda. All of them came near the Lord, who glowed with intense light. They individually offered their obeisances and prayers, their hands folded at their heads. Shingadev Bhagavan ki! Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for watching. Haribol.